Welcome back, everybody out there. Today I'm working on another original art Kickstarter piece. I think there were 3 of these from issue 1 Kickstarter of Annabelle. And this piece here is Annabelle and Icepick with dragon in the background, of course. And I have a rough layout going. I do very rough layout, kind of just get the basic shape going, position of things, anatomy. I tend to bubble things out a little bit, but once I get that really rough layout done, I will put that on a light table it onto my artboard here, and I'm going in and just working in some of the cleaner pencil details. This process here for me can be anywhere from 2 or 3 layers of pencils. Sometimes artists will come in with 1 or 2 layers. They do their rough layouts and then they go in with their finished pencils. For me, sometimes it takes me quite a while to really flesh out where everything is going to be at. Still, as someone who does draw quite a bit, but not as often as I should, to be nailing everything at the first attempt here, it can take me a little while, but working on her eyes and her face is really important for me. Annabelle has a certain look that I like to go with. She's very much inspired by the Witchblade, the Michael Turner era, Randy Green era of Witchblade. And going in here, fleshing out Icepick. And the thing with Icepick is that I can make him as big as I want or as small as I want, really. As you see, in some of the Icepick issues, he's a little bit bigger in some pages and panels and smaller in others. With his superpower, being able to control moisture, he has that ability to really affect his body mass. I never really fully explained or go into that detail in the comics just yet. I explain a little bit of what his powers are, but that's something that he's learning and experimenting with and understanding the full gravity of what he can do, what he can't do. So there's plenty more that I will explain and just reveal about his powers as these issues progress and move on. But when I talk about bubbling out part of my drawing here, this is a good example of that. His whole right arm there is just one giant bubble that I'll go ahead and detail in later. So going in, working on his hand now, and we'll get that going. Here you see me just trying to get that thumb right, struggling sometimes with hands. Definitely can be a challenge. There's a lot of videos out there, a lot of tutorials about how people draw hands. For me, I just I know the basic shapes, and I've definitely watched my fair share of those types of how to draw video, and a lot of them, there's some really great information for people that have been drawing for a while. But once you get a feel for how you want to draw hands, how you want them to look, then it becomes a little bit easier. As with anything, when you draw, the more you draw a specific thing, the little bit easier it becomes. You get familiar with positions and angles and things like that. And I would definitely agree that people say, hey, you should draw every day, draw everything you see. That's something that I did when I was younger. Definitely as a teenager, I did a lot of drawing. I took a few fine art drawing classes, and so it definitely helped me to understand and learn a lot about drawing what you see, drawing what's there, and then being able to exaggerate something if you need to, or when you can exaggerate something, when you shouldn't necessarily exaggerate something. Working on the dragon here, and dragons are fun to draw too. I mean, especially with the variety of dragons that are out there, and being able to just use your imagination and say, hey, this is what my dragons look like. They got big tongues, big teeth, scary faces. I like to have fun when I'm drawing these supernatural characters and whatnot. So now here we go. I'm really fleshing out the details of Annabelle's face. When I talk about working several layers, this is a prime example of this, where when I started the video, I kind of fleshed in some of her facial features and her hair very loosely. Then what I do is I will lighten that back up. Then I go ahead and darken those pencils in and clean this up. This backer for this piece actually wanted this pencil. So I go in there and I make sure that these pencils are a little bit tighter, than if I were to ink it myself. I feel that when I'm inking, I will add a lot of detail, I'll add a lot of line weight, but when I'm doing just a pencil piece, like I've mentioned in other videos, I tend to just tighten up the pencils. If I know it's just going to be pencils and I'm not going to ink it in or have a professional inker do anything with it, I will go in and really refine my pencil lines a little bit. And I'll take that extra time and extra step where, if I'm going to ink it myself, I may just call it a day and let the pencils be. But if I'm going to pencil it and it's going to be sold as pencils, or it's out there as, Kickstarter backer request just pencils, then I'll take the time, add some of those line weights, go in there, take one more extra step and lighten all my, what would be my final pencils, lighten those up, and then go back in and darken them a little bit more, refine them a little bit more, just to make sure that final piece is, clean, it's got nice line weights. To go in there and have the variety of line weights, is important on a final pencil piece. Working on her stomach and her shorts that got burned off, all these little details, they matter when you're working on a piece like this. You have a lot of different textures, fabrics, skin, special effects, scales, rocks. There's so many things going on in this piece that I really try to stay focused and try to be aware that you have these different elements in a piece to give it a different look and a different feel. Even with Icepick, his costume is mostly black, right? But I still want to go in there and make sure I'm separating and pulling off some of the details of things. Working on his face and his mask, which is always fun to draw. Little known fact, those that know Icepick and are fans may know this, but Icepick was definitely influenced a lot by Casey Jones, the Mask from Ninja Turtles, and a lot of the darker elements of Batman, Spawn, those types of things. I mean, those are the comics I really grew up on, and when I was a teenager, it was cool, and I enjoyed those characters. The somewhat anti-hero, but still did good. He was the guy that was out for his own kind of vengeance or his own revenge, but yet he always ended up somehow doing good, saving the world in a way by doing his own thing. I always loved those kind of characters, so that's really where Icepick came from. Annabelle, actually, the origins of Annabelle are not as defined. She was a character in the early story that I wrote with Icepick back when I was a teenager. She was just a random character, no name, no origin, no story, nothing. If you ended up getting the trade paperback that I did with Icepick, she is in there in a lot of the old pages. I put in all my artwork that I did when I was a teenager creating Icepick, and you'll see her. She's just a random character standing in an alleyway. So it's fun to develop these characters over time and to really mature the story into something that is cohesive for the reader, that's fun for the reader, and just something that actually just brings all the characters together. A fun story. That's really my goal and my character development, style of storytelling, those types of things. Finishing up his hand here, finally got everything in order, and we're gonna go work on these clouds here. I love doing clouds, getting back into the piece here. Clouds are super fun. A lot of these clouds early on, I had so many influences, but I would say the clouds are kind of more Brett Booth inspired than anyone else. I pull all kinds of different inspirations doing artwork. Whether it's Tom McFarlane, a little bit of Jim Lee, a little bit of Brett Booth, like I said, Michael Turner, and even, Randy Green, like all these artists, Stephen Platt. I mean, you could just really go down the list of all the Image guys, first wave, second wave, Sam Keith. All these guys inspired me in some way, whether it's via artwork or storytelling or, just the ability to do what they wanted to do on their own terms. And that's really what inspired me to do Icepick, and then continue these stories with Annabelle, and I will be continuing a story with Luke. A lot of these guys just, did their own thing the way they wanted to do it, and it showed me that you can do this. I started doing this back in the 90s with Icepick, and it just really evolved from there. Dragons are a lot of fun. There's a lot of scales on dragons. At least my dragons have scales. And, for those that picked up issue 1, Annabelle, you know this already, but for me, my dragons can turn into human form. So that's something that I enjoy. I think the artist Sergio really enjoys drawing dragons, and I mean, who really doesn't? They're super fun. I love taking a character, good, bad, whoever in the story, and being able to really mature that character, really be able to have this journey with these characters. And that's really what, my storytelling is about. And in general, good storytelling, it's about having that character develop and journey over time. That's one of the things I'm trying to do here with Icepick and Annabelle, Luke. And we'll get back into this piece here, going in here and fleshing out some of the shadows in the dragon, and trying to give the dragon a little bit more separation here by filling in these blacks. Blacks are a very special thing, in my opinion, when I do artwork. I really try to look at what can I do to separate elements, and that's key for an artist, especially when it's pencils. You want to be able to separate background from foreground. You want to have your planes of a piece. You want to have foreground, middle ground, background, even further backgrounds, or even something that's even more in the foreground. And to me, blacks is a way to help that happen. Line weights is another way to really be able to pull things forward or backwards. Icepick being mostly black, at least with his costume, you can see here that, by shading Icepick in, putting Icepick behind Annabelle, it really helps her come forward and pop out. So with that here, I'm just going to finish up these blacks. We're going to wrap this piece up, and I really appreciate everybody for watching. And if you haven't, hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help out this channel.